Thanks, Kelly. Thanks, everyone. I'm Emeka, and I want to just walk you all through the journey of how we can actually rethink development, especially in the developing world. So growing up, I lived in a community where not everyone had access to water. But then what happened was the people who were well enough to have access to free-flowing water will leave their gates open, and then the poor people around them can go in and get access to water. And that's exactly what I want to transform from water to electricity. And that's why the name Ubuntu comes in. Ubuntu simply means I am because we are. And essentially, this is the journey of how we can transform wasted energy into community power. I have been very, very, moved by this whole idea of using energy and electricity to transform development. And that has led me to, first of all, study electrical engineering at the University of Nigeria, where I obtained a distinction and graduated as the best student in the faculty. From there, I went on to build Green Age Technologies, a company through which I supervised about 1,000 different projects. And we are currently building a modern plant to actually manufacture power electronics in Nigeria. In doing all of this, I discovered some problems. And those problems led me to come and study energy systems at the University of Oxford with teachers like Cameron Hepburn here seated. And I'm going to talk about that in a bit in terms of the problem. The other people that are currently working with me on this project include Sean, currently works for Palantir, does a lot on big data and machine learning. And then there's also Grace Henry that Cameron also knows very well, works for the Australian Energy Market Operator, and we are working to pull her out of there because there's a lot more impact that we can actually drive. Malcolm McKillog supervised the development of this project. He has about 36 patents to his name, and Sangu is one of Africa's foremost business guys. So what's the problem? I remembered when we were taking the energy economics class under Cameron, he mentioned one thing that I really liked, and that's the missing money problem. And I started thinking about this, but this missing money problem only applies in Europe and America. In Africa, we have the no money problem. So I started thinking, if I were an economist, maybe I would have come up with like that concept, but this is actually the thing. So the site to the left was supervised by my humble self. That's a 30 kilowatt solar power system, used only 60% of the potential is what is utilized. The other 40% goes to waste. As you can see around there's a lot of buildings with very, very old roofs to kind of tell you what the economic situation of these people are. They cannot afford a solar system. Over the past 5 days, Nigeria's grid has broken down at least 3 times, generating less than 100 megawatts of power. The implication of that is that people rely on these diesel generators. The cost of diesel has gone up 300% in the last 6 weeks due to the change in administration. This is causing businesses to fold. There's increasing emission of CO2, and there's a lot more poverty. So the problem is kind of, multidimensional. Why did we have this problem in the first place? Like I mentioned, the grid doesn't exist, and then also there's no system to actually trade this power. So what have we done to do this? It's very simple. Essentially, you enable a grid that is community developed, community led. And how did we do that? We have designed this novel smart system that actually enables the distribution of wasted power from wherever it is produced, and that's what we call the prosumer, to the consumers. What this system does is that it monitors things including power generation, consumption, and it's able to automatically distribute this power to where it is needed. Now, underlying this system is a software that is currently being developed for remote monitoring and control. And this software is also going to enable energy trading in the sense that the user here only has to subscribe to power before power can actually be sold to the user. And this is going to improve reliability, trust, and security on the systems. We have scaled this from just ideas to actual implementation over the past few weeks. So 2 weeks ago, we implemented the first pilot. And this is a site, again, that I visited quite a lot of times. I, again, supervised this project. Within this particular business complex, as people who have gone to Africa will understand, there's a lot of shops. So one of them has a lot of money, and he's able to get a solar system, few batteries there. But then he actually wastes a lot of that power. But then in the same building, there's someone here who needs just 200, 300 watts of power to be able to drive his business. And what he uses now is this generator is now rickety and is now very expensive for him to actually use. So what have we done? The smart box has been installed in this particular system. You can see this solar power inverter was actually built by my company, and then now that smart box has also been installed. And then what it has essentially done, it's essentially enabled the distribution of power from the solar source to the consumer. Now here the consumer can actually see, the different sources, and then they can select where to actually get power from. And we can actually currently monitor what's going on. So this was collected on the 7th of September, and essentially we can see how much the subscriber has paid for and how much units they have got to use. So again, like the business that we're talking about is quite large scale, and the implication of that is we have to speak to everyone in the sector. The regulators actually absolutely love this because a lot of their projects are currently very lossy and is making solar power, a big debate on the continent. The energy companies, as I will speak about them in a bit, are in mad love with actually this product. And I think 2 days ago I had a call. So in love with it because that's how they can empower their people. People talk about competition all the time, but the problem is this is quite huge that we don't need to compete with anyone, we actually need to collaborate. And that informs what our go-to-market strategy is. So as you can see here, to the top right corner, there are solar installation companies doing incredibly well, very highly reliable power sources, but they're very inefficient, as explained earlier. The bottom left is the grid that has collapsed 3 times in the last 5 days. SoulShare is a company here, currently not operating in Africa, and then we are right at the top corner. But then what we are doing is we are bringing all of these players together. How we're doing this is that you can see here the solar installation company, basically because they have all these sites, thousands of sites across the continent. What we want them to do is just simply subscribe to the software, and then we'll give them access to how to use it, and they can actually enable the sale of power, and then they get 20% cut of that power that's actually sold. Our modeling shows that by investing just $120, they can be able to generate 35K. And this actually makes their businesses viable. And this right here is our go-to-market strategy. The system that actually enables us to empower everyone within the sector. Now, also what's interesting is that the consumer, even though they are paying, when you actually compare that to what they would pay for diesel, whose price is still rising, you see how much they are able to save. So within 2 months, they are able to get payback. And then for the solar owner, it's also quite intuitive that they get a lot of money as a result. For us, because we are working with all of these solar energy companies, our costs are quite low. We just have to work on softwares and then a few human costs. We're very low on assets and a lot of infrastructure, and then that gives us a very high turnover of about 30 million in 2027. We need 1 million, and what we're going to do with it is we have currently concluded the first pilot. We need to do the second one by the end of this year. And between 2025 and 2027, we need to electrify 1 million people and generate about 30 million in annual revenues. I want you all to join me in this journey of rethinking development from a traditional top-down approach where we all rely on government and policies of Rishi Sunak to a bottom-up approach where we can actually rely on ourselves, empower the communities to build what they want for themselves. And that's the story of Ubuntu Energy. Thank you so much.